Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode from BreakTurn. We're here at the beautiful Connect building here in Nashville. Amazing building, amazing space. We're here in this lounge kitchen area. We always try to change up the scenery for these podcasts, but today I'm excited about because I have nothing planned. I haven't set my computer in case I need to look up things on the internet, more for me. But we have James ONieal here from Raven's Career, and we are just going to talk, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. So if you want to introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, and let's just start talking.
I'm James from Raven. I own a career development company helping pilots get hired, airlines and corporate. Basically, 2010, I got laid off from my dream job in the worst economic conditions ever, and so. I didn't have the option to not find work, so I grinded, and pretty soon I started calling on my buddies every week to kind of share what I was doing, and pretty quick I realized I was talking and they were writing. One of my buddies said, "Hey man, you should really start a business charging people to do this." I told him he was an idiot. There is nobody on the face of the earth that would ever pay me money to explain this stuff, and here I am now. I own a business. So
it's like that imposter syndrome where even I feel weird doing podcasts 'cause it's like, who's going to watch me?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And then, so I totally get it. So you got, was it COVID?
No, I got 2008 financial crisis. So I've
The Big
survived.
Short,
I've
Steve Carell.
survived September 11th, the 2008 financial crisis, age 65, the coronavirus, and we'll see what this looks like.
This meaning what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started instrument training in June of 2001. Couldn't have picked a better time.
June of 2001. Yeah. So what is Raven? What did you start? Obviously you were chatting with people and they were taking notes. What did that form into? What is it now? What are you doing now? Sure.
So basically it's kind of today what it was when I started it. So when I lost my job, it was bad. I went from making $90,000 a year to $1,600 a month on unemployment. It was so bad that I could not walk out of my house because I didn't want anyone to see me. It was that depressing.
Wow.
And so there were, funny enough, the people I actually compete against today in the space existed back then. And the problem was when I called companies up and said, "Hey, look, man, I need a job." Spoiler alert, nobody wants a resume, nobody wants a cover letter, no one gives a shit about interview prep, right? Nobody cares about that. Everybody wants a job.
That's right.
They're willing to pay for those things
Correct.
if it leads to a job, but
Correct.
Nobody calls me up and they're like, "You know what, James, I really feel like I want a resume today," right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I called these companies up, they were willing to sell services, but they weren't selling outcomes, right?
Interesting.
I would have splashed out thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
If somebody could have just said, "I'm going to put together a plan and I'm going to sit there with you the whole way while you get there."
Wow.
And so because I couldn't find that, I started doing the resumes and the cover letters on my own.
Yeah.
But the problem that I ran into was I couldn't get off the couch. So I had a resume, I had a cover letter, I knew exactly what had to be done networking wise, but I couldn't get out the door. And so my wife, Eileen, who if anybody ever calls us, has spoken to her.
Sure.
Came home, saw me on the couch, 3 PM, haven't showered, haven't brushed my teeth in days at this
Perfect.
point. Yeah, there's
Lots of Halo.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where you find exactly if you find out if someone loves you. And she went, "Hey, look, what are you gonna do?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "You know what? Tomorrow, I'm gonna send these resumes out." And she next day came home and went, "So how many did you send out today?" And I went, "I'm gonna do it tomorrow." And that went on for about a week.
Yep.
And finally she said, "Okay, here's the deal. What do you have to do?" And I was like, if I rapid fire these resumes out online, what's going to happen is it's like screaming into an empty closet. It's literally not going to go anywhere.
Okay.
And so what I need to do is I need to get face to face with people. Now you got to remember, this is 2010 timeframe. Social media wasn't where it is today.
Right.
You couldn't get somebody in their pocket.
Right.
You had to go find them face to face.
Yes.
But they all have security gates to stop you from getting through the gate.
For sure.
Okay. And that's what folks are running into now. When there are more pilots than there are jobs, the gatekeepers put gates up in between you and them. And so I found a hack. I won't say how I did it because I saved this one for clients. But I found a way to get the contact information for every single chief pilot in the United States. And so what I did is I drew rings, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, hour, 2 hours from my house, and I had the name and address of every chief pilot. And so I said, I have to just go to them and I have to go hand out a resume. And so Eileen said, okay. So she got my suit pressed. She printed out all the resumes. And we got in the car, and she, at that point, I think MapQuest still existed.
With the paper directions.
I don't even know if the internet actually existed.
No, it was the Garmin in the window. With the
yeah,
suction
yeah,
cups.
exactly. It was like one of those newbie Garmins.
Yeah, exactly.
So we would drive out, and then I would get out of the car on my own. I would walk in the door, and I would go try and hand them a resume. But the rejection was brutal because I got furloughed from NetJets and the airlines weren't hiring. So I had to walk into corporate flight departments. Well, the NetJets business model prior to that point was to walk into those same flight departments and go, why don't you shut the flight department down and have us fly your airplanes for you? So now I'm walking in to basically beg for a job from a guy whose my company tried to steal his job about a year before. Wasn't exactly a comfortable setup. And so I would walk in, I would get rejected mercilessly, and then I would walk out into the parking lot feeling completely worthless, and Eileen would give me a hug. And then we'd go to the next place. And at about number 75, we drove...
75?
Yeah. No, it got worse. So we drove 3 hours, and I walked in, and I said, hey, and I didn't even get the words out, and he goes, I got nothing for you, leave me alone. And I don't know what the look on my face looked like, but I said to the guy, if you could please just take this resume and throw it in the garbage when I walk out the door. I drove 3 hours. There is no more hope, man. And he went, take a seat. And he goes, tell me a little bit about yourself. And he started talking.
Wow.
And he goes, I'm sorry, man. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job. He goes, I got nothing for you. But I think Bob down the road might have something. And he called Bob.
There it is.
And went doon to doon to doon to doon. And I in the 3 months, October 2009, I was told I was getting laid off, and January 2010 is when I actually got laid off. I had 3 jobs lined up. I was 26 years old. I had 3,500 hours total time, no turbine PIC time. I had half the qualifications of everybody I was competing against. And I ended up with 2 jet jobs and 1 management position. But I would not have gotten any of that done if Eileen did not get in the car and drive me.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Yes, we do the resumes. Yes, we do the cover letters. Yes, we do the interview prep. But you need a support structure wrapping that all together around you. And not only that, you need somebody quarterbacking your support structure. So husband, wife, mom, dad, kids, they all want to help. They don't know what to do. And so if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a plan with benchmarks, if you don't have an accountability structure, if you don't have an emotional support structure, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how qualified you are, I don't care how good looking you are not going to end up with a job. Now, yes, the past 2 years have been unique. You could have folded your resume up into a paper airplane and thrown it at headquarters, and a company would have sent 3 HR recruiters to your house to beg you to please come work for them. That is not how that works right now. And it is getting merciless out there. And the experience I had in 2010 is starting to look like it's not quite as bad. 2010, I walked into Home Depot, and they would not hire me because I didn't have enough retail experience to sweep floors. So it's not as bad as what I had to do. And I don't mean that like, hey, I walked uphill both ways. I just mean like, when I say there was no work, there was no work. So what we're doing is what we've always been doing. Like I said, the resumes and the cover letters and the interview prep. But what we add above everything else, as the guys on my staff say, is a big warm hug. That's fundamentally what you're getting with us.
I love that story because, and again, I have nothing planned. This is great because I was like, hey, let's get in a room. Let's just talk because there's a lot we can talk about. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that about your story. But it speaks volumes because a lot of the paradigm that some folks may have, and this is 2024 when we've recorded this, is we just came off of a hiring craze post-COVID, where if you had a napkin with a crayon with your name, your number of hours, and that was it, you get a job. And it's kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off of saying, hey, we're not saying you have to walk uphill both ways per se, but are you willing to drive to 75 people and get rejected 74 times? Are you willing to go to Home Depot and get rejected to get to where you want to go and to get your job? And so you essentially did door-to-door sales for yourself.
I did, and you got to remember, a lot of my friends made fun of me for it.
Don't get me started on that.
But I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
Right. And I'm going to talk about this. So I don't want to give away the whole thing I'm going to talk about today. But so the job I ultimately took was running the largest flight school in New York City.
Wow.
So I got hired by NetJets at 24 years old. I was basically the youngest guy in the seniority list. Okay. This is not a joke. I started on a Monday. The pay was $28,000 per year.
It's not a lot.
I'm not even going to tell you what I was paid to fly at the regionals. So the jets that you guys are flying now that everyone's like, oh my God, I'm only making 50. I was making 22. I made 19,000 my first year at a regional. I made 23 when I flew an Embraer 170. So
you'd make more, an unemployment.
The flight attendants make more than I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I started on a Monday making $28,000 a year. On Wednesday, the union passed a new contract that I didn't get to vote on. And on Friday, I was making 90. Yeah. So meteoric rise.
Yes.
Okay. So that was the experience all of me and my buddies had.
Yeah.
Now, on top of it, they were buying airplanes at a rate that no one had ever seen before. Because you got to remember, I got hired right before the peak of the 2008 financial crisis, right? So It was 2 a.m. at the strip club. The lights hadn't been turned on yet, right? I mean, there was hundreds being thrown around like it was,
Life is good.
Exactly. Okay. So the frame of reference was, and they told us when we got there, you will be a captain in a year.
Okay.
So I was going to go from 90 into the six figures like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Free health care, right? No monthly premium, dollar for dollar match on a 401k up to 50%. My dad had a massive heart attack.
Okay.
While I was on probation. I think I'd been there 6 months. They chartered a jet to get me home. Like, that's the type of company.
As a 20-some-year-old.
Exactly.
Wow.
Like, so they treated us well, okay? And now the 2008 financial crisis happens, and it's not, they did what they needed to do. Like, no resentment towards the company, but you're gone. Yeah. Right? Like, because it was, hey, if we don't lay you off, the company doesn't survive.
We all die.
Yeah, we all die. Yeah, like, so look, it's sometimes you got to cut a leg off. And I'm not saying it feels good, but the rest of the body dies if that leg doesn't go.
That's right.
So we had this super high, like, dude, I had a Northwest pilot. This is during the Delta Northwest merger.
Yep.
I was in the back, I'm a 24-year-old in the back of the airplane, and the captain comes back with a resume in hand and goes, I don't know how bad this merger is going to go. Could you please walk my resume in?
No way.
So that's where I was.
And you're like, yes, sir.
And he called and harassed me for not in a bad way, like to be like, hey, did you hand it in?
Yeah, like he wanted.
Right. Okay. So I know when you talk to people today that you got to remember, this is right as age 65 was going in.
Yes.
So all these retirements were supposed to happen. Now it got kicked out 5 years. So now all these guys that were supposed to upgrade now aren't upgrading. Their pensions were rated; those are gone. So the retirement's gone.
The Northwest, the North.
Go take a look at what happened during the merger. I mean, I don't want to but go look through what happened during those mergers, man. There was a lot of stuff that was pulled back. Like, those pensions were gone, man.
Yeah,
gone. Right? Google PBGC, the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, I think is what it stands for. Basically, the government takes over your pension. Trust me, it's not a good deal for you. Yeah. So this was bad, and we were up here.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I'm going to go run a flight school? So my buddies were not making fun of me like, haha, you're stupid, just the like, why are you wasting your time?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Right? Because the thing is, it crushes your soul to be worthless.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was at that point. Like I had no meaning, no purpose, no value, right? Okay. So now I go take this job running a flight school, and they're like, why would you go be a flight instructor? Well, I was making 90 at NetJets. I'm now making 60 running a flight school. I now have management, right? So people think like, hey, I want to go right to where I want to go, but they don't think strategically, what are the steps they want to go straight there, which don't get me wrong, we all do.
I get it.
Yeah, but that's just not how it works. For vast majority of the people, you're going to have to take, and if you think about anything that anybody in their life has accomplished that's worth accomplishing, they didn't go straight there.
No.
Right? Like, anybody that's done anything that they're proud of in the military, they had to go through steps.
There's a progression. There's a stages. Yeah.
But over the past 2 years, there wasn't.
That's correct.
You got to skip go. You got to collect 200. Right? It was a different ball game. And so now the expectation is, what am I doing wrong?
Yep.
So when I went out and did what I did, my buddies were like, why are you doing that? That's stupid. They sat on unemployment for a year. What they didn't understand is, well, yes, I took a job running a flight school, and yes, I locked in basically a 30% pay cut.
Right.
They were smoking hopium.
Yes.
Right? Which is, this is going to get better tomorrow.
Sure.
And so $1,600 of unemployment for a year.
Interesting.
Okay? Now, what they don't realize is now you're dropping out of currency.
Yes.
And so when you're willing to go from a $90,000 a year job to running a large flight school, people know you ate a shit sandwich.
Yep.
And they appreciate that you were willing to do that.
Yes.
And they will put you into a position that they won't put the guy that sat on the couch. And the position I got put in was assistant POI for Atlas. I did the 7.6 certification for him, and I started that. I got that position with the FA 6 months after taking that flight school position.
Really?
Yeah, I sat on the ASAP ERC committee for JetBlue.
Yeah.
And I was the assistant POI for Atlas. I did the 7.6 certification.
Because you chose to not sit on the couch.
At 27 years old.
Oh my gosh.
They would make, when I would go to Atlas headquarters, this is not a joke, director of ops turned to the POI and went, why'd you guys bring an intern? I dressed like this. I wasn't wearing polyester.
Hey guys, get your lunchbox.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Hey
I mean,
guys.
so here I am walking in, right? I'm 27, 28 years old, right?
Yeah.
I look younger than I look now, right? I'm wearing, no offense to my brothers in the FA, but I'm wearing nice clothing, right? That fits, it's tailored, right? You know,
how dare you?
And so they're like, what's this kid doing here? My buddies a year later end up having to go take a job in the right seat on a regional jet, making $33 an hour, which is what the pay rate was, to then try and climb back. Dude, the financial havoc it created on their family. Yeah. So
years.
Initially, and I tell people this all the time when we go through difficult times, there's a lot of moves you're going to make that to other people are going to look dumb because they don't see the broader strategy. But what happens is they look backwards and they go, well, that was really smart. And so I've gone through my career being really, really dumb and really, really smart and then really, really dumb and really, really smart, but my bank account has kept doing this.
That's right.
Right? My family's been
Quality
safe.
life.
My family's been secure.
Yep.
It's been at the cost of a lot of discomfort for me, but they were there supporting me. It wasn't like I was out on my own. Dude, if she wasn't there to give me a hug,
right?
If Eileen wasn't there to physically drive me there and go, it's okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here.
Yep.
Like I wouldn't even have the company.
I love that. It's like, are you willing to be uncomfortable to accomplish your goal? And everyone will say, well, of course.
Yeah.
It's like, well, show me. What do you mean? Well, show me. Like, are you uncomfortable now?
Yeah.
Well, no. Okay. Are you going to be uncomfortable tomorrow, next month? Like, what do you want to do? Is it that bad, right? It's like any military school, right? If you want to be a sapper, an air assault, or a ranger, it's like you have to be willing to go through hard things and be uncomfortable to get that accomplishment. There's one phrase that my dad would share with me, which, and this, I love your story too, because I'm like, yes, like I always tell people, if you want to go from point A to C, it's not a straight line. You may have to go to B or B.5 and then C, and that's okay.
Or you might go X, Z, L, P.
And who cares?
It doesn't matter.
Like, who
I just
cares?
care if I get there.
That's right. I'm going to get there, and I love that. We'll have to talk offline about something too. Some of my buddies make fun of something that I'm doing, and I think you'll love it, but not here and now. But no, the phrase goes, what are you doing to avoid doing what you should be doing?
Yeah.
So, well, I'm time building, Landon, and I'm working on my resume, and well, I'm still in the military, or I'm trying to figure out where I want to go, and I'm networking. And it's like, great, those are all amazing things, and you should be doing those things. But what are you doing that are great excuses to avoid doing what you should be doing, which is, potential for your story, door-to-door sales, networking, going to work for a flight school, right?
Yeah, and look, nobody likes to suffer. Even like it's not
David Goggins is probably the closest.
Yeah. Okay. So nobody but David Goggins likes to suffer. But the reality of the situation is when we take a look at it inside Raven, we break it up. There's two types of suffering, right? There's suffering that creates more suffering. So here's what that looks like: shooting out resume after resume after resume and hearing nothing. That's suffering. That's just going to create more suffering.
Sure.
It's known.
Sure.
You know what that process looks like. You can look at all your buddies doing it, and you go, well, everybody else is doing it, so it becomes comfortable to go, this is all I can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
We will, as humans, we're funny. We will choose what we know over what is better 10 out of 10 times.
100%.
It's just how we work.
100%.
We all work that way.
Yep.
Okay.
Lost version. There's all a bunch of psychology in it. Yeah.
So there's suffering that creates more suffering. Sitting on the couch collecting unemployment, whatever that looks like, right? But then there's suffering that ends suffering. Okay. So when I went out to those 75, it ended up being over 100 chief pilots, right? When it was all said and done.
That is wild.
Yeah. That hurt. Hurt a lot more than sitting on the couch, sending out resumes and hearing nothing.
Yeah.
But it was the type of suffering that ended, it got me a job.
Yeah.
So when we're guiding people, it's not a shut up, toughen up. It's a, hey, look, if you do these 3 or 4 things, let me show you 10 other people that are doing it, which, by the way, we don't talk about what we do online.
No, we show our vacation pictures online.
No, I'm saying at Raven.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
Here's what I mean, right? Like, so I am looking for cracks in the infrastructure. I'm looking for the side door into the building. Yeah. If I tell you publicly what we're telling people to do,
no longer
it won't work.
Correct. Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So we are constantly switching tactics. We'll do something, it'll work, and then we'll start to see, hey, it's not working as much anymore. So then we make an adjustment. Because what's happened is people have eventually caught on to what we're doing over here.
People share information.
Cool. So then we move.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they're all doing this, and they're going, well, that's not working because we're over here now, right?
We're gone.
Yeah.
Pivot.
The target moves.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but while we're doing that, we're able to we're able to the max extent possible, make sure that the suffering that someone's going through is for a purpose, not just it was hard for me, so it needs to be hard for you.
Oh, for sure.
It's here's how that connects into these 7 other dots. So look, I used to tell people all the time, I would much rather spend time talking to the guy that clears out the trash for the chief pilot than to a check airman that he never sees. And they don't understand that. You're like, because the guy that cleans out his trash knows the chief pilot's family, hears the conversations, knows when the guy's pissed, knows what his personality's like, can tell me if he's a friendly guy, what does he like to talk about, right? But why would you want to go talk to a guy that picks up trash?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You gotta think. You gotta take a look at what is everybody else doing, and just don't do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to work.
I love that. It's the gold mining analogy, the gold rush in California, and the guys who made the most money were the people selling shovels.
Yep.
It's like you can go with everybody else and go try to get your luck in getting gold, or you can buy some shovels or sell some shovels, and that's cool. I like that. Man, that's profound. And honestly, so what you and your team do is you're actively looking at trends in the market. You're looking at, our favorite phrase is success is defined as a steady accumulation of advantages. So you're looking for those advantages, and you're looking at how can we capture those and pivot, as the industry. So with that in mind, what incarnations is going on right now in the industry that you see? And we can go as deep or as shallow as you want, but like you say that you look for cracks and you compared earlier to 2010, but it's not quite there yet. So you obviously have a pulse, a quantitative pulse on where we are. Like, what's going on? I mean, is it gonna get better? Is it gonna get worse before it gets better? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between something feeling bad and actually being bad.
No, it's all about feelings. It's 2024.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called feelings.
So, the difficulty is because of what has happened over the past 3 or 4 years, right? what's happening right now feels horrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we've got to recognize is, I know everybody talks about, hey, I survived coronavirus. Coronavirus wasn't bad. Everybody got bailed out.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, that's the first time I've heard someone say coronavirus wasn't bad, but you're saying that it didn't end up being bad because we haven't really felt its badness
Sorry, my
yet.
point is, as a pilot.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, yeah, you may have been on a lower minimum guarantee.
Sure.
But a vast majority of the airline guys didn't get let go.
I get that.
Right?
Okay.
There
I
were,
get that.
and I want to be clear, there were a lot of people that did get let go.
Sure.
Right,
for sure.
But if you had, if United, Delta, American, Southwest, right, the 4 largest airlines in the country, if they let go of all the people that their books said they should have let go of, the market would have been decimated.
Okay.
Like, that's where you get into a situation where you're walking into a Home Depot.
Yeah.
And you can't, or I walked into the Verizon store and couldn't get a job selling cell phones because I didn't have a retail experience, right? Like, game over. That's basically what happened in 2008, right?
Yeah.
So you had a situation where enough people were held over.
Right.
If you were a sub 1,500 hour guy, it was atrocious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah.
If you were a flight instructor, it was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But if you were a junior Delta pilot, it may not have been great for you.
Sure.
But it wasn't like it was for them.
Yeah.
Right? And and you weren't on the street for 3 years, right? Okay. The other thing is the recovery out of it was, no one's ever seen that before, right? So it was the up was just as steep as the down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what happened was, whatever suffering folks had, right, started to get alleviated very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So that becomes the norm. Oh, I've heard of hiring is cyclical, right?
Yeah.
Hey, look, it went down, now it's going back up, right? Okay. That's so in the 2 years after coronavirus, roughly, if you take the largest airlines in the US, this doesn't account for regionals, it's at the major level. 13,000 pilots were hired per year. So 13,000, then 13,000. Okay. If you want to find the next highest hiring years, you got to go, it's like 2005 or 6, and then like 2014, 2017 or something like that, 5,000 pilots hired in a year.
So 13K, the second place, the silver medal
5,000
winner was 5K.
That's correct. Yeah. So when we say like this is unprecedented hiring, if there's FAPA.aero puts out a chart, and it's literally, you see it's like this, like 3,000, 5,000, and it goes straight up to like 13,000, and you're just, I mean, it looks like a kid drew the chart. I mean, you're like, whoa, like when you see that chart, it's like, holy crap. I mean, that was unsustainable.
Yeah.
Once in a lifetime type of event where, you know, that many pilots being hired. And what people don't realize is all of the hiring in the industry is dictated by basically 6 carriers: United, Delta, American, Southwest, FedEx, UPS.
Yeah.
If they're hiring, they're pulling from a whole bunch of other sources, which means rising tide raises all ships.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Students are getting hired as flight instructors are getting hired as regional FOs are getting made regional captains, flight instructors are going 135 FOs are becoming 135. That's all dictated by what happens by 6 carriers in the US, and really 4 of them dictate most of the hiring: United, Delta, American, and Southwest. Those are the 4 carriers that really dictate. It's 4 large carriers in the US.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, you know, we started to see a pullback late last year, but outside of our clients, we weren't saying anything out loud. And the reason we weren't saying anything out loud is because then our clients can't adapt quick enough, number one. But number two, people don't like to get bad news that far in advance, right? It's, you know, when have you ever had a buddy dating someone that they shouldn't be dating, and you're in like the first 6 months, you're like, you kind of,
how's it going, man?
Yeah, like you notice how they kind of do some things, like they've never offered to pay for dinner once, and they're like, no, great personality. You're like,
fine,
okay, yeah, you just kind of hold back and wait. But we started to see a drop off, and look, the drop off's been substantial. I mean, you know, you just see Delta just announced the other day that they're pretty much done hiring for the year. American reported a $1.5 billion quarterly loss. That's going to hurt, and we'll see what that looks like in terms of recovery. I won't talk about that publicly yet. You know,
Southwest cut too, I think.
Southwest stopped their hiring,
Boeing issues,
right?
yeah,
You know, you have what's going on at Spirit. You take a look at the announcement JetBlue just made about
deliveries.
Was it 46 or 49 aircraft? That's 10 pilots per airplane.
And their routes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, what's Frontier doing with their routes, right? Like you're seeing cutback. Okay.
Sure.
The two people to really follow right now are the CEOs of United and Delta because they're talking about it.
Okay.
So United has their United Next strategy, and that is really it's creating a lot of difficulty for the other carriers because they've basically, for all intents and purposes, have locked up 20 to 25% of all the new airplanes coming out of Boeing and Airbus.
Between Delta and United, they've locked up.
No, between United.
Oh,
yeah,
just the one.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So what that allows them to do is expand in other markets without without cutting down in existing markets.
Yes.
Well, if you have all the aircraft deliveries, what does everybody else do during the expansion? They can't get airplanes.
Correct.
They don't expand.
Yeah.
So now what they have to do is figure out how do I redeploy my existing assets more effectively. That's why you'll start these concept of these route changes. You're going to start seeing those things continue because they're going to have to make difficult decisions over, hey, how do we want to compete? What do we want to do? Delaying retiring certain airplanes, right? Now, there's a whole bunch of games that go into that, but the cool thing about that is when you have those changes being made, there's hiring opportunities.
Interesting.
But if you're
That's
looking
the good stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it as, but I want to go from A to B, you're going to miss all that stuff in the middle, right? But if you go, okay, hey, I eventually want to get to B or C, right?
Yeah.
How do I make? Then you can start to develop a strategy that actually works for your family. I can't tell you how many people we got hired by United, Delta, and American within 5 years of graduating college.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Who were miserable. Yeah.
Because
it turns out summiting Everest isn't the fucking part everyone actually gets satisfaction out of.
That's right.
It's the climb.
It's the journey.
And I know that sounds really, really cheesy, and I'm not saying that to put down what people are dealing with right now.
Yep.
But the reality of it is, and the reason I know, is because the quantity of people that spent thousands of dollars with us to get hired by a legacy carrier that called back and went, now I need a strategy to leave.
Wow. That's wild. It's wild, but I'm like, yeah, because you put something on a pedestal where the grass is greener and you didn't really, you just wanted to get the name tag, but you didn't really do the research for it.
It's not even do the research. It's just that there's all these developmental stages that happen along the way.
Yeah.
That if you don't get the, like, you know ATP, CTP?
Yeah.
Yeah, that came from a company called Colgan Air. Okay.
Yeah.
Colgan Air crashed an airplane into a house.
Yep.
Okay. The captain on board that airplane was in the class right behind me at Colgan.
Really?
All the guys on the NTSB hearing panel, 2 of them did my IOE. I know every one of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was at Colgan, was I really excited about going to work every day? No.
Probably not.
When I take a look at how I make decisions now, things that help me become better at being an FAA guy, things that taught me how to work with other people in difficult situations, it came from that. I mean, not just from that.
Sure.
But like, when I take a look back at what it was like to get the furlough notice, was that exciting? No, but I wouldn't have this business without it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so...
You pick up these...
Yeah. A lot of this stuff is talking about in kind of this like cheesy high level, like, you know, embrace the suck, which I'm not really a big fan of. But when you work, and this is kind of what we bring to the table, when you work with folks like us, everybody on my team has to have gone through shit.
Nice.
I don't have anybody on my team that had an easy life.
Nice.
Right? I mean, companies going bankrupt, furloughing, guys that have lost their medicals for, you know, like inner ear situation, you know, threw them into, like, there's nobody on my team that's not been through something difficult.
Wow.
And the reason for that is because how do you help people get through difficult situations if you've never been there before?
100%.
What are you going to do? Tell them, stay positive? Shut up. What am I going to tell my kids today about, hey, like when you're staring down having to pull your kids out of school because you can't afford it anymore, and you're trying to explain to them why mom or dad, why they're going to have to give all their friends up because mom or dad can't figure out a way to pay for it. Don't fucking tell me to stay positive. Don't tell me to stay positive when I'm losing my house, when I'm losing my car, when I've shot out 1,000 resumes, when nobody will call me, when I went from here to here, and you're going, just you know,
positive, just smile, man.
Yeah. Just manifest it. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. You need people
Yes.
that have gotten kicked in the teeth and the nuts at the same time.
Yeah.
And figured out a way to get back up.
Well, it's the phrase. It's like if you want, talking about kids, right? If you want to teach your kids bravery, they have to experience a situation with fear.
Yeah.
If you want to teach them resilience, they
Ding,
have
ding,
to have
ding.
experiences of adversity.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to have someone who can teach you how to get through an industry market or hiring, they have to have gone through hardship, and not just like, yeah, I heard about the 2010 down cycle, and no, I lived it, and I can help you through it.
60% of the time we spend with clients is outside the service they purchased.
Really?
So they buy a resume.
Yeah.
There's a reason why
Yeah.
I have a number that every client can call to talk to a live human being.
Wow.
A majority of what we do with them is actually outside the service they purchased.
Yeah.
You give them a resume. Well, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Call me. Right?
Yeah.
A majority of what we do is the actual support. I'm not saying that the resumes you write aren't amazing, right? But they don't sell themselves.
Correct. It's a piece of paper.
Yeah,
it's in a stack.
If anybody started a business, it's like thinking, I'm going to start a website and all of a sudden money's going to come in. No, it's not.
No.
Now you got to drive people there.
I can speak to that. Yeah.
Right? Then you've got to figure out, you think about a resume, right? What we're doing on there is trying to figure out how to put stuff on there that gets people to want to talk to you.
Want to talk to you.
Yeah,
not to give you a job, but to talk to you.
To talk to you.
Agreed.
Because what we're starting with is, how do I get a conversation started?
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all I want, right? Now, you're going to go through a lot of rejection through conversation. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be merciless rejection.
Correct.
It's going to be, I don't have something for you.
Yeah, it's
going to be, I'm sorry, I'm busy right now, I can't talk, right?
Right.
It's not going to be the leave me the F alone.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So once we put that stuff on there, then when the people go out and they're getting feedback from the recruiters, and the feedback from the recruiters doesn't come in terms of, let me tell you what you're doing wrong. The feedback comes from, I went to 5 of them and they wouldn't talk to me. Okay, cool. How did you approach them? Well, I did this. Okay, that's the problem. Try this, go back, do it 5 more times, come back. Oh, shit. Now they're talking.
Yeah.
I got them talking, but I don't know what to talk about. Okay.
Okay, come back. Yep.
Come back. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. So now, do you see how we put this over here on that resume? Okay, cool. So you want to drive them right there.
Right there.
Okay. Well, how do I do that? This. Oh, cool. I got them talking about that, but now I'm in a circle where that's all they want to talk about. How do I get them onto something important? Okay, cool. That's the trick. So congratulations. You paid. Look, military people are trained to do 2 things: follow your buddies and buy yourself out of a problem. And my competitors,
throw money at it.
My competitors leverage that.
Yeah.
They will sell you shit to the high heavens. They don't care. There's no prices on my website. You can't buy anything. You have to talk to somebody on my team.
Yeah.
Because if I can't help you, I'm not taking your money.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
but
right.
that help is not what you think it is.
It's
a portion of it is.
Right. Resume prep, interview prep, that's what I'm paying for it. It's like,
But 60% of it's actually a hug. And I don't mean that in a cheesy, I mean
no, it's what you need is what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's 60% of it is what you actually need, not what you thought you needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dude, that's why when we do the coaching session, the spouses are there.
Oh, wow.
Because then you're like, okay, they want to support, but they might not know how to support.
That's it.
Okay, cool. So here's how you can support. Okay, so he's telling me this is happening. What's happening? Okay, yeah, he's saying that, but here's the deal. He actually tells these dad jokes. Okay, you can't, oh, I forgot to tell you that, right?
Right.
Or,
Right.
You'll have a husband or a boyfriend like, yeah, she's really uncomfortable getting conversation. Okay, cool. Well, then let's talk about how, how we can do this, how we can do that. So you have to have a protective group around you that not only is willing to support but knows how to. Somebody's got to quarterback that, and it's not you because you don't know what you're doing. You've never if you've never climbed. There's a reason why people pay for Sherpas for Everest.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've been up there a million times.
Like, that's right.
Yeah, been there a million times.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
And the being there a million times is not the specific company. It's the getting kicked in the nuts part.
Yep. It's the process. It's not the end state.
Well, because there's not as much variation in HR processes as people think there is.
Sure.
There are very specific things about specific recruiters you talk to, and we kind of know all those things. But the HR process is not as varied as people think. But the rejection process is. That's actually down to the person you're talking to, plus what your background is. Like, I'm an introvert, man. I know that sounds weird given that I've been talking the amount that I've been talking, but like, we're going to have this social gathering here. I'm going to spend 3 days by myself in a dark room when we're done.
But you like helping folks.
And
that's what it's about. Yeah.
But my point is that like, I have learned that these type of interactions one-on-one, I could do these 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
We're going to have 30, 40, 50 people here.
Yeah.
That's still comfortable.
Sure.
But you put me at a convention with 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people, it's fatiguing for me.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you got on at Frontier?
Yes.
You remember when they did that party where you did the presentation out at that hotel?
I do.
I was there.
Okay.
Do you know why you didn't see me? Because you guys were all in this room. There was this huge party Frontier threw. Dude, you were the guy at the party.
Don't. Yeah, moving on.
No. Hold on. They had drinks. They had food. They also had an outdoor pool area where there was nobody sitting at.
I didn't know there was a pool.
I know. I went out there and fell asleep.
Oh my gosh.
That's where I was when you were giving your talk, right? So, because I had a whole day of being, okay, cool. And I woke up 10, 15 minutes later. There was in a group of about 5 of us that sat out there and talked for probably 3 hours.
Wow.
Because that's what I'm comfortable with.
Sure.
So the rejection's going to come in different ways, but
Yeah.
it's not about you copying what your buddies did.
Yeah.
It's about how do you structure the program and the process for what works for you.
Yeah.
You run to stay in shape. I walk. I walk 10 miles a day.
Nice. Wow.
Right? But you won't ever catch me running. You won't. It's not that running is wrong or walking is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just running's right for you and walking's right for me. And that's the other thing is I don't have a set, this is the one way to do it.
Yeah.
I've got 76 ways to do it.
Sure.
The question is which one of those works for you, and chances are we can take number 5, 9, and 13 and combine those and make number 77.
And I love that because we've got a partnership with Raven at BreakTurn, and we love the relationship because we kind of the phrase you just said, we'll tell our folks as well. We'll say, hey, we understand you want to get to X, okay? Mm-hmm. But your route, we'll look at Bobby and Timmy and Johnny, and you want to follow them. Mm-hmm. And I said, that's fine. I get it. Path of least resistance, okay? But for you specifically, you may have different path. Let us help you with that, right? You live in Oklahoma City. You don't live in, Savannah, right? We may have a different path for you. We'll kind of custom make it. But what we love is that we'll try to get them kind of on a pathway, decision macro-wise. Do you even want to do this? Do you know that you want to be a pilot or a maintainer or, a drone operator? Do you know that? Let's talk you through it, right? Once they say yes, they're committed, we'll try to craft a kind of a plan and a way ahead from them. But then we're comfortable passing them to you guys because it's like, okay, how are you going to get there from the presentation standpoint? We'll give you the roadmap. But in terms of getting in the door and talking with folks, like we say overtly, we are not resume prep, we are not interview prep. We'll guide you to get to that career, and we're releasing a module that'll help them do it online. But y'all are great because it's not just this canned plan of like, do this, say this. I don't even know the acronym. Is it STAR or whatever? Yeah. Here's the STAR. Rehearse in front of the mirror. Talk with your counselor. And I don't know this to be true about anyone else, but just it's very custom, and I love that because it's not a plug and play. I mean, it is conceptually like. Interview, get a job, but it's not. The
tactics are, and the part that you brought up is really important that people don't get. So the way you just laid this out is you went strategy first, tactics second. That's the way it's supposed to be done.
That's right.
Except everybody else does it the opposite way. Tactics first, no strategy ever. And here's what that looks like.
Tactics are sexy though. That's
exactly. Let me buy a resume. Let me buy interview prep.
That's right.
Hey, do you get in your car and start driving before you know where you're going? No, you don't. No. You figure out where you want to go first.
That's right.
Then you figure out how are you going to get
100%.
there. Then you figure out, am I going just by myself? Maybe I want to go on a... My hotel is right around the corner from me. This morning, when I got up, I went, do I want to drive or do I want to walk? Mm-hmm. And then it was hot, so I drove.
Nice.
But it was only me, right? Sure. If I had friggin' 20 people with me, well, I might be looking for a friggin' school bus to get me, right? Right. They don't look at where they want to go. They don't look at who's going to be along with the ride with them? How's this going to impact my husband, my wife, my kids? Yeah. Right? A lot of people have elderly parents, sick parents. Yeah. Right? Brother or sister they're taking care of. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a lot of variables that go into this. And
everyone's unique.
So what they're doing is picking a destination based off what their buddy did, which, by the way, over the 2 years worked. Over the past 2 years, for sure. All you had to do was take a dart and throw it, and whatever it hit, you were going to end up there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, now... we're back to normal. Mm-hmm. Now there's nuance to this. And so if you put the tactics first, you, like getting in a car and driving without knowing where you want to end up, you're going to end up in some weird places, maybe some dangerous ones.
It's very interesting, and I'm glad you said that because I'm just reflecting kind of, because I don't formally counsel folks per se as much anymore, but it's, well, I want to go here, and I start to figure out, okay, how can we get you there? When really it's like, do you really want to go there? Is that what your buddy did? You know, where do you live? Do you want to commute? Do you have kids? Do you have family? You know, I want to fly. Some guy said, he said, I want to fly cargo, but I don't want to fly at night, and I want to be home, see my family. And I was like, that's doable, and I'm not an expert like y'all are, but it's like, I understand that cargo will fly at night a lot, and they're gone a lot, because they're doing the transcon stuff, and so you think you want that brand, but you don't really know what it is you're asking for.
Yeah, but that's the hilarious thing. Let's talk about night flying in cargo.
Okay.
I tell people all the time, hey, why don't you want to go cargo? I want to fly backside of the clock. Oh, cool. What do you want to do? I want to go to Legacy X. Well, why do you want to go there? I want to fly wide bodies. Well, when do you think those things fucking fly?
That don't make sense, man.
When do you think people are going to Europe? When do you think people are going to Europe? It's not during the day.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to answer 3 questions. What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And how are you going to get there? Before you start doing anything with tactics.
Yeah.
Before you got a resume, before you got a cover letter, before you start networking, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How do you want to get there? And that's the other thing that folks have to be very careful of when they get a mentor or they get someone that's going to help them create that strategy. Are they coaching you to replicate what they did?
I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that.
So, okay, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've literally got 15,000 hours of coaching underneath my belt.
Wow.
What do you think happened for the first 5,000 hours? I had to learn how do you coach someone to do what they want to do, not what you want to do. Right. Now, when I bring people on my team, right, I've got to teach them how to coach that way because what people are chasing is happiness.
Yes.
The contentment.
Yes.
So when they see me and I'm happy, they go, I want to do what you want to do. And you're like, no, you don't necessarily want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You're chasing the happiness. So let's talk about what makes me happy. And then they go, oh, I don't like that. Okay, cool. What do you want that to look like? Oh, I want that to look like X. Okay, cool. Well, then this is what actually gets you that.
Yeah.
You don't, everyone's chasing happiness. That's why they follow their buddies. Because their buddies have similar paths to them and they go, oh, okay, cool, this is replicatable.
Well, in the military, it's what you do too. You follow your buddy.
It's not.
Yeah.
And you can talk about this better than I can because I didn't serve in the military. They're not the same animal.
No, not even close.
And so I think the big mistake that folks make is they try and compare civilian and military.
For sure.
And then they try and discuss which one is more difficult. When in reality, they're difficult in very different ways. So the big mistake that we see a lot of military folks struggle with is they go, I've dealt with very difficult things in the military.
Right.
I can handle whatever you throw my way.
Correct.
And you're like, this is going to be difficult in a different way. So the coping mechanisms that you have, the resilience structures that you have, the support structures that you have are centered around those problems.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Well, we're going to give you a different problem set.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No different than if I took a civilian, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I grabbed a chief pilot from a major airline, right? And who had no military experience and just swapped him in as an 06. He's going to have some problems.
I think you were the first one to reveal that to me because, and again, I'm not throwing shade at military folk, but I'm included in this batch of thinking, if you will, is Army, Navy pilot, I fly, it's the same job you're doing, hire me. And it's like, okay, cool, so the chief pilot can come do what you do here. And they're like, of course not.
Exactly.
It's like,
well, why would it work in reverse then?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's because they're different, right?
Yeah,
so where people get into the trap is they go, well, this is better or harder, or this is worse, or it's like the chief pilot's got leadership experience. Friggin' warrant officer, 03, 05, they got leadership experience too, but they're leading in very different environments, right?
Yeah.
The other thing, and I was watching a podcast with a SEAL here a little while ago, And so I apologize if this hurts anybody's feelings, but this is his words,
I mean,
not
it's
mine.
SEALs, so you really could go either way here.
But he brought up a really good point. He goes, a lot of military guys come out into the civilian world, and their mindset is, I'm a leader. And he goes, what they forget is there's a whole structure that was put in place for you to lead effectively. And so, yes, you were a very effective leader in an environment where there was a structure designed for you to successfully lead.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't exist in the civilian world.
Yeah.
We don't have rank, we have power, right? And the power is hidden. You never know who you're dealing with or who you're talking to.
Right.
Right? There is no one path to get there.
Right.
There's hundreds of paths to get there, right? The civilian world is brutal. When they decide they don't need you anymore, and look, people can make fun of the support structures the military puts in place all day long, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's perfect, right? Okay.
Sure.
But there's an effort.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
There's not just a
right.
Done, right? The civilian world is different, and it's not better or worse. The military is not for profit.
Correct.
The civilian world is.
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about it last week. It's for money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The military swears an oath, right?
Yep.
So do for-profit companies. It's to shareholders.
I was going to say to shareholders. Yeah, it's different.
That's not you.
It's not me.
Right.
No.
So whatever they got to do for that shareholder.
Yeah.
You can't get angry with somebody for playing by a set of rules that they told you they were going to play by.
Yeah, it's a different set of rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you apply the military rules into a for-profit environment, it doesn't work. Which is the same thing. Like, how many times when you guys are planning a mission go, what's the cost of this mission going to be? Right? Like, is there a way we could do this at a lower cost?
Can we take one less aircraft and save some gas? And save us about $15K.
Hey, do you think we could drop some ammo, just to kind of leave that? Hey, you guys are shooting a lot of rounds that aren't landing on target. Could you just maybe
stop shooting? Yeah,
could you just
yeah.
We laugh because it's like that's stupid, right? I mean,
right.
And look, don't get me wrong.
Though.
The military does cut back on different things for cost, but it's not that way, right?
No.
Well,
it's true because I'll tell folks too. To your point, the structure of your leadership acumen, if you will, is our evaluation reports, right? OERs and COERs or fit reps, whatever your branch's flavor is they're very good at telling you what your responsibilities are.
Yeah.
They're not good at telling you what your accomplishments are, and that's defined as. And this is I forget the author. He scrubbed my resume. It was Scott Vetter.
Okay.
He's This is before I knew what I know now. But he said, if you could take your name tape off, Landon, and put the next guy's name tape on, does your evaluation change?
That was a really good piece of advice that he gave you.
I was responsible for $19 million worth of equipment in excess of 115 soldiers and families. It's like, cool, that's awesome, man. Did the next guy, did he say that as well? Yeah. Okay, cool, you can't count that. Accomplishments, which are, I would say, elusive, because you have left and right limits in the military, depending on what unit you're in, where it's like, well, Landon, I can't do anything profound and new because there's structure. I go, correct, which is why they're hard to come by. So to your point, we say we're leaders, and we are to a degree, but the whole system is set up for you to call yourself a leader and lead, and truly lead. I agree, but it's not the same.
That's correct.
Than the civilian industry. But no, and again, the problem sets as well. I love you bringing that up too, because I'm thinking of like, what's a good example of that? Maybe a potential example is I sat unemployed for 4 months when I transitioned. A little bit of a story there, but to save everyone the story, it was like I could go down this path or that path. This path is a better path, but I have to wait an unknown amount of time. Or I can do this path, which is maybe less desirable, but I could start now, right? So I sat for 4 months. In the military per se, and someone's gonna laugh at me because like, I got a story, I get it. But in the military, the problem set of, I don't know what I can do, there's nothing I can do, and I am suffering for 4 months unemployed because of something out of my control. How do I solve that problem? The military doesn't experience that.
No.
You have orders, you got people got to take care of you got to get BH, BAS, pay and all that, TRICARE. So a unique problem set of any sort of military experience you have in the past doesn't necessarily apply per se as much people think it is.
You take all the stories I told in the beginning of difficult things I've been through, right? And those, quite frankly, are probably some of the easier things I've dealt with in my life. Okay? I have structures in place for that. But if you threw me into a SEER course tomorrow, You're laughing because you know I'm not ready for it.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, right. But you know I'm not ready for it, right?
I know. Yeah, that's right.
Different problem set. It's not that I'm a weak person.
That's right.
It's not that I don't have resiliency. It's that I don't have the structures developed for that.
Right. Correct.
Right? You wouldn't throw me into or OCS and go, yeah, he's ready for that.
Just send it, man.
Just
figure it out.
You wouldn't expect me to perform the way you would
Right.
if I re-put you through SEER.
Right. Yeah.
You know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
That's the difference. And so the military people don't realize they're competing against people that do have those resilient structures in place. It's not a fair fight.
No, it's not. And Adam Andre owes me a Coke whenever I say this, so this is another Coke for Adam. In the Army, in the military, we'll say Army, right? We have what's called the reverse air assault planning process. So when you go plan an air assault, it starts at, ground tactical plan. And then you go backwards, to the loading plan, way over here.
Strategy, then tactics.
That's right. And so that's cool. Awesome. Range of that. Like, that's how you do it. In the civilian industry, there's an entire playbook that's not called the reverse air assault planning process, but it's the same concept that you're competing against guys who are well-versed in that, and you're not. So getting in touch with somebody who does.
And it's not written anywhere.
That's what I'm saying.
It's all up.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, these guys are coming out of the military, and they're competing against guys like me.
That's it. But I was in the military. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But
and so the thing is, I'm cutting your legs out from underneath you behind closed doors. And I'm not talking about like lying and cheating and stealing. I know who to talk to. I know how to get the conversation started. I know who holds the power. I know how the decisions are made, right? No different than, once again, grab me as a civilian, put me in the military as an 05 and go, hey, we need you to get this major budget thing approved. How the fuck does the budget process work?
Yeah. XO.
And you can read all the stuff you want, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not in that book, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to ask yourself, how are you going to, and I hear this from military people all the time. They go, I didn't understand what you were saying when you said it was going to be tough. And then they get into class and they go, dude, it's like everybody else knows exactly what's going to happen, and we're drowning. Like, why? I went through flight school. Yeah, because in flight school, they tell you exactly what they expect from you.
ELOs.
I'm not saying it's easy, but you know what's coming so you can prepare for it. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We just kind of throw you in there. Imagine if military flight training was, you walk up to the airplane, you go, so what do you want to work on today? Yes.
Parts and pieces.
Yeah.
I'm a drop of fuel.
So that's what they're competing against. And the issue is their problem awareness is low. They learn that the game is not structured for them in the middle of playing the game because they didn't hear this podcast. They didn't hear this conversation. They just didn't know.
No, you're right. No, I love that. I think we'll probably have to do another podcast about strategically analyzing, like, the industry. You said strategy before tactics. I love that phrase. I'm gonna keep that one.
Steal it and reuse.
Yeah. So you say strategy before tactics, James, but I don't know strategy. How do I look at? I got aero crew news. So like unpacking that,
So here's the difficulty, right? One of the big questions I'm going to get asked later on today is, what is my path? How long is it going to take me to get to X? Number one question we get, right? Okay. And you know what the answer is? I have no clue.
No idea.
And I'll tell you why. Because the way that we do this with clients is we start with the what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Right? And then we start working on the how you're going to get there. So the what and the why, believe it or not, take the most amount of time.
Yeah.
Because people go, I want to do this. Why? Because my buddy. Okay, cool. So then and then you start walking them through what the ramifications are. They go, maybe I don't want to do that. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. Yep. Then what I have to do is a competitive analysis. And so the problem is, and if you think about the OER or OPR or fit rep, depending on what branch you're in process, people suck at figuring out what makes them different. They just copy what the last guy had, slap it on there, and sign it. Yeah, that's what everybody does, right? I mean, I talked to I was talking to someone that write fit reps the other day, and she was saying, it's frustrating. Like, I see these people, they work really, really hard, but the person that was their grader just didn't want to take the time to write it. And so they just literally cut and paste, they go, and it impacts the person, right? Okay. So, because it's hard. So we have a book of about 500 questions. We don't ask you all 500. We know what your background is. And we go through and we figure out what are the differentiators. We're going to find things that you didn't think of. Now what I can do based on that is I can tell you, here's the path on how you're going to get there. And then I can tell you the expected timeframes and benchmarks based on that. Now, I will be honest with you. There are some times where we're going to tell you something's going to take a little bit longer, and it's going to be a little bit faster.
Sure.
Okay? There are sometimes we're going to tell you something's going to happen in this fast, and it's going to take a little bit longer. But that's why having the benchmarks are important.
That's right.
Because if all you say is, I want to go from leaving the military to airline X in a year, well, there's a whole bunch of shit that has to happen within that year. So if you don't have literally like a week by week, month by month idea of what's going to happen, how do you know if you're on track, behind track, or ahead of track?
Right.
Which means your family's now not prepared. Which means they can't adjust their support. So the most common question we get asked is, well, how long? I don't know. Let me sit down with you. Ends up being about 2 or 3 hours, not all at once. We break it up. And then I can answer that question for you because I know exactly who I'm going to tell you to talk to. I know exactly what to say that's going to pique their attention. I know most of my time is spent asking recruiters, what are people doing that's pissing you off? So I can tell our guys to not do that, honestly.
That's a good question.
I go, hey, what?
I love this.
What
Recruiters here.
Yeah, what are they doing that's pissing you off? And they go, for fuck's sake, if what did I have the other day was, if I hear another story about how you grew up on a farm. I'm like, grew up on a farm?
Wow.
What the fuck? Yeah. Somebody at some company was prepping people to tell stories about, and that's what they did. So they all had a story about
this card.
Yeah.
It works every time.
Yeah. And that's why you'll hear I constantly change my stories out because you're going to see the Dude Ranch things going to start. All of a sudden, Dude Ranch stories are going to start popping up in interviews. People, where the fuck did that come from? Because I said it.
Yeah, let's give him this card.
So you and you got to remember the recruiters will talk. We're force multipliers.
Yes.
Right. So if a recruiter gives me feedback, I go tell that to 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, depending on what my, certain things I'll put out in email, certain things I'll put out face to face, certain things, right?
Right.
So they're more than happy to have a conversation with me. Everybody you want to talk to is on this phone in my left pocket. I call me anytime you want.
Nice.
Right? Okay, cool. But if they explain it to you, congratulations. That 20 minutes of their time, now somebody else right behind you wants the exact same.
Right.
And they're not making any headway on it. That's why they won't talk to you.
Right.
Right. That's not you. I mean, you're a breakthrough.
Sure.
They'll talk to you. They'll talk to me.
Right.
But the individual, they're not going to talk to because as soon as they're done, somebody else right behind you goes, okay, now I want to ask the same set of questions.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That allows us to. That's where the strategy tailoring comes in. Right. I had a guy. This was right before the whole thing kind of cratered in. Straight helo guy. I mean, had like 250 hours of fixed wing piston time.
Solid.
This happened like 6 months ago, maybe a little less. And he goes, hey, should I pay for my ATP? And we were like, look, man, I mean, you're a helo guy. Like, I'll be honest with you, if you want to do it. But like the probability that's going to work out is not very high. And he goes, okay, cool, I'm going to do it. So he did it.
Okay.
So then he gets ready for convention. And so he goes, all right, so now I want to go straight to a legacy. And we're like, okay, but I want to set your expectations.
Okay.
Right? Like that the probability that's not very high. But if you were going to do it, here's how to do it. So he goes up and he talks to the recruiter. And the recruiter basically goes, dude, you're a helo guy.
Oh.
Like,
come on.
And he leveraged some conversation points we talked about. And he did it flawlessly.
Okay.
Because the guy walked him over to an HR recruiter. They scribbled some notes on the resume, and 3 weeks later he had an interview.
No way.
Yeah. And we went, fuck
What?
us. How the hell? Like, now think about this, right? So you talk about support structure.
Yes.
So that's look, I can talk about successes all day long, but that's it. He was success. Like we weren't like, hey, don't do it. It was just like I didn't want the guy to go
expectation management.
Yeah, you don't want a puppy to get kicked in the face, right?
Correct.
You're like, hey, walk up slow.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, if you're going to do it, here's how to do it. But like expectation management.
Yeah.
So immediately when he came back, he sat down with us and did a debrief. Here's who I talked to. So the thing is, the support's not just coming from us.
Right.
Right. The client, the people that we work with, our clients, they are our support structure. It's not just coming from the recruiters. It's not just coming from our clients that are now line pilots. There's a whole structure we have in place. And the thing is, when you have access to the quantity of people that we have in the different positions, remember, this is the only part of this water bottle you see, but there's a whole bunch of stuff over here.
Correct.
So the more people we get into our network, I can see a 360 picture. The recruiter's only going to see it from this perspective. The pilot's only going to see it from that perspective, right? But when I put all of them together, I actually get a complete picture.
Yep.
That's where and that's why when people are like, well, what's the strategy? Dude, if it was one size fits all, my competitors could do it for you.
Correct.
For half the price.
Correct.
Like, I mean, honestly.
Sure.
Like, if it was that easy, you wouldn't need me. You just go ask your buddy.
Yeah.
And over the past 2 years, right, our business shifted. People were not coming to us to design the strategy on how to get hired, right? They were getting multiple CJOs, but they weren't getting the one they wanted. So it was, how do I leverage different relationships to get to where but now we're getting back to normal, where now it's back, the strategy that we're doing is, so we were still doing the resumes and the cover letters and all the same stuff, but it was like, okay, I want to get, okay, cool, well, and I'm not going to talk about how we did it, because it worked really well. Really well.
We'll just edit it out.
But we would send people in specific paths at specific times, and we knew, because you're just watching, I have all the background, I have information that nobody else has.
Yeah.
It's not a fair fight.
Sure.
Okay. And so we knew, hey, and then when it would change, we would adjust. And it worked beautifully, and we knew right when the door shut. I mean, it was like, hey, that's over. And people were like, yeah, my buddy did. Like, no, I know your buddy did. I'm telling you, it's over.
It's over. Wow.
Yeah. That's why last year we knew. Like, we were seeing it, and it was like, oh, yeah, that's not really, those things aren't happening anymore. And so we couldn't say it publicly, but, we would, one-on-one, we would say it. Like, we never mislead an individual, but, we had to switch our tone where there's certain things we were like, okay, hey, look, we're not going to shit on people's parade, but we're also not going to tell them
We're not
false.
gonna blow smoke.
Yeah. So
I love that. So going forward, I'm a big, whenever I do these, I like to give folks the so what and the action item. So this is all great information. Man, I learned a lot. It's like, cool. Are you going to sit on your couch and be like, hey, I'm going to share this podcast and then just go about my business? What would you tell folks in terms of like an action item for them to do? How do they get in touch with you? When should they get in touch? What should they be looking at? Like, what's some action items we can give folks? And then that'll be it.
So there's two things. So the first is they can just follow me on LinkedIn, James ONieal. I put out free content 6 days a week on all these different things that we're talking about. Okay, so if you're more than a year and a half out, just go to LinkedIn, James ONieal, ONIEAL, and you'll get a boatload of free content, more than a year and a half out. If you're within a year and a half, right, go to ravencareers.com. You can click on Contact Us, and you can set up a free call it'll either be with Eileen or me. And really, that's a discovery call to find out where you're at and start sharing resources with you on things you need to think about.
Nice.
Because in that year to year and a half range out, we can solve a lot of problems before they become problems.
Interesting.
And then what we'll do is when we put that timeline together, we'll talk about, okay, so here's where you fit in, here's where we fit in, here's where your husband, wife, and kids fit in, right? Depending on how that looks. So more than a year and a half out, go to LinkedIn, James ONieal, ONIEAL, follow me, boatload of free advice.
Heck yeah.
Inside a year and a half, ravencareers.com, contact us. You can schedule time, goes direct to our calendar. You cannot purchase anything on my website. We do limit the amount of people that we work with.
Sure.
If I cannot get you hired, I'm not taking your money.
Interesting.
Being in the military, I get one of your buddies hired, I got the other 9 of your buddies. I fuck one of your buddies.
That's it.
Over.
Over, done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will turn, some of the best referrals we have are from guys we didn't work with.
Wow.
Yeah, because we were honest with them. Hey,
Wow.
man, either you don't need it or we can't help you or X, right?
Wow.
And people appreciate that when they know, hey, you're looking out for me and my family. You're not, you're tied to an outcome, not to a product.
I love that. That's awesome. No, and I appreciate you coming out here and talking with us. I know you have to give another spiel in like a half an hour at this event, so we want to make sure you get a break. Yeah, get some water, but awesome information. I think a lot of takeaways. I appreciate you sharing your stories because that really gives people context. As people look at, and to each their own, right? I'm not judging folks, but there are people that are on their pedestal and they don't share their stories, and everyone just thinks like, oh, they've never had any adversity, and they're just, I want to be like that guy. And really, it's like, no, man, like we all have our hardships, and sharing those really humanizes yourself, and it shows folks that there is really no single path, and there's really rare routes, if not extremely elusive, that there is no some suffering to get there. So sharing your story is great. Industry, what that's doing, 13,000 pilots, that's insane. We'll have to shoot another podcast.
Per year.
Yeah, per
Not
year.
total.
I want to shoot another one with you maybe next month, maybe on a Zoom or something.
Talk about industry stuff.
Industry stuff, and so what's the so what of the 13K, right? So that'd be cool. And then we talked about the strategy before tactics, and then, custom industry advice. Like, that's all awesome. And then obviously how to get in touch with you and your company. I mean, that's awesome.
Dude, next podcast, man, we start talking about why there's a boatload of people getting terminated right now.
Getting what?
Terminated.
Really?
Yeah. I get about one a week from a legacy carrier.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
See, the problem is when you take an opportunity before you're ready for it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on that people are not, our clients know what's going on, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on that people aren't privy to that we can talk about. Because the thing is,
I just wrote a note here.
Suffering that creates suffering. Dude, it crushes my soul when somebody gets terminated.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Like, I never want to see someone.
Yeah.
There's 3 passenger legacy carriers. What do you do when you get terminated from one of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do.
Actually. Let us talk about that. But no, I love it. Thanks again. Do we miss anything?
Nope, we're good, man.
Get it all. So, all right, cool. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks,
Flew
brother.
in yesterday. So, but yeah, until next time, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.